What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Universal Teas. It's the People's Podcast with your girl Toya, and this episode is called Elevate Yourself. This is the third episode in my Mental Health Awareness Month Yourself series. And child, I had to give y'all this episode right now, because my spirit is filled with so much gratitude. Before I got on here, I was folding some laundry, and I dropped the announcement that I will be in Madison, Wisconsin as a presenter for the Black Girl Magic Conference there. And I really had to sit down. Like, Spirit just told me to sit down because I had to take in a child. We are 1 minute into this episode and I'm already feeling teary-eyed, but I had to literally sit down. So I was sitting on the floor for like the past 15 minutes in my room, and I was just scrolling through Apple Podcasts, looking at the episodes, kind of listening to a couple of them. And I was looking at this flyer for this conference, and I am filled with gratitude, like I said, but I'm just reflective of how I got to this moment. And it's a stepping stone, right? This is not the top, but it's elevation. And so I found it fitting to go ahead and record this episode, because this episode, like I planned out the episodes that I wanted to do for May, and the one that I actually had for today was Correct Yourself, but I found it more appropriate just after, the moments I just described, to go ahead and do Elevate Yourself. And so this is what I'm going to start to call a spirit episode. And the reason that I'm calling it a spirit episode is because I don't have any notes, y'all. I didn't write any notes for this for real. It's just the episode that I felt needed to happen. And with it being Mental Health Awareness Month, I just want to name that when you are dealing with mental health problems, when you are dealing with the voices in your head, the thoughts in your mind, the anxiety in your body, depression, it can be so hard. Like, you sometimes, I don't know, but we sometimes find ourselves like, I just need a break. I just need a win. I just need a little bit of light. I just need a little bit of good news. I just need something good to happen. Or hell, I just need bad things to stop happening. And I think this was a moment where I realized good things are happening. And I've always said, well, not always, but when I realized that this was my thing and my calling, I was like, I want to be good. I wanted to elevate. Like, I wanted to grow. I wanted to, I want to do this. I wanted to do that. And today I realized that the key to elevation, actually there may be a couple keys now that I'm thinking about it, but one of the keys to elevation is consistency, and this is something that's been coming up constantly for me also, is consistency. And I think we measure success, or not success, we measure how quickly or how impactful our elevation or our rise is going to be in whatever way that you know what I mean, and whatever your lane is. We measure that by how hard we can say we went and working to achieve something. Like I stayed up for 40 days and 40 nights. I didn't get no sleep. I barely ate. I went to the gym every day. But I think we just discredit consistency. You know, getting up every morning and deciding to sit by yourself and with your thoughts for 5 minutes for 2 months. That's something to applaud. And getting or sitting down and reading a couple pages of a book every night is consistency. Deciding that you're going to do a certain thing, a small thing, consistently is what leads to triumph. Because the more you do something, the closer you get to success. And I know you all have probably heard the quote by Dr. Martin Luther King, and I hope I don't misquote this. But I believe it says, and this is a ballpark, so don't judge me. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But the goal is to always be moving forward, you know? And I think today, after I made that post, and I was just sitting on my floor, I realized that the way that I went from sitting in my little tiny 1-bedroom apartment, recording a podcast on Facebook Live, to being selected to present at my first conference just came with me being consistent. And I think and I know in the last episode, I talked about, I think it was the last episode, I talked about how hard I can be on myself. And I think I took breaks and I felt like I'm not being consistent. But there's also an episode where I talk about taking a break is fine, but you can't lose sight of your vision. Because when you lose your vision, that's when the consistency ends. So as many pauses as I took with Universal Teas, as many times as I didn't record or upload episodes, I wasn't on Facebook Live and I was gathering myself, I always knew that I would come back. Consistency does not have to mean every day, every night, every minute, every second. Consistency can also be every 2 days, every week, every month. But you are still consistent as long as you keep going. As long as your mind is focused on the fact that you are going to keep going, you are consistent. Your consistency, and this is where the spirit of comparison robs us of our opportunities and our triumphs, is we compare what consistency looks like for the person next to us on their journey to their goals to ours. I am very aware that this platform will not be impactful if I don't have anything personal or I don't have anything real or genuine to share. So my taking a break does not mean that I am not consistent. It means that I am pausing. And I say all that to say, this episode is called Elevate Yourself. And my challenge for you when we talk about elevating ourselves is to be consistent. Don't give up. Don't let your mind say this isn't my thing. Don't let your mind say I'm going to stop. Don't let your mind say this is difficult. It's not for me. When the thoughts and the visions that God has given you for that very thing keep you up at night. You daydream about that goal, about that business, about that relationship, about that marriage, about that friendship growing. You dream about it. Don't let that go. Pick it back up. Pick it back up. Pick it back up. Pick it back up. And I'm hearing in my mind, I don't know if y'all have ever watched or heard Sarah Jakes Roberts' message, Girl Get Up, but not even just women, but babe, you got to get up. You might have to shift, change, but you have to do it. And so when we are elevating, you really have to. This is another thing with the self-awareness, with the love is patient, love is kind. Be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Acknowledge what it is that you're feeling, because guess what? Love also delights in the truth. Be honest about how you feel about certain things, but don't forget to keep going. Yes, I'm tired and I still got to find time to do this. Yes, I haven't done this in X amount of days, but I can always start again. You know, even the greatest boxers get knocked down, but the ones that win are the ones that get up. You only lose if you stay down. Because as soon as if y'all watch boxing, as soon as that the player child, this not a video game. As soon as that boxer gets up on his feet, the fight is still on. Remember that. It doesn't matter that you got knocked down, that you got discouraged, that you had the baby, that the relationship ended, that the family member, that the person close to you passed away. You are going to get knocked down. That's a fact. You know you're going to get disappointed. That's a fact. Teach yourself now how to get back up. You are still in the fight. And I'm not saying elevating yourself is going hard every day. Elevating yourself is understanding where you fall short. And another thing I realized is that, because I was talking about the keys to elevation before, another key to elevation is community. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. That is an African proverb. And I realized that yesterday as well, because I am typically not a person to be on the phone for real. I don't like sitting on the phone. But I had 3 different conversations yesterday, and I felt so good after them. I talked to my mom for a little bit, and then I talked to my friend Connie, who's about to be a new mommy. So we were just kind of talking about, she's like 4 weeks out from having her baby. And we just talked, you know what I mean? And it was no motive to the conversation. No, like, I'm calling you for this. We literally just talked, and it felt so good. You know what I mean? And it made me realize that community is so important. And then in another conversation that I had with my 2 best friends, Egypt and Jasmine, was in our group chat. Jasmine had texted, because shout out to my sis, she just got moved into a new apartment, and in our messages we always ask, like, and how you're doing, like, how are you? And so I kind of just was like, I haven't been the best mentally, you know what I mean? I said that. And so we got into this conversation of like what's wrong, and just completely pouring out, being vulnerable, and they're pouring out, being vulnerable. And it was also like, yeah, me and them, well, all 3 of us realized that we kind of isolate ourselves and then complain about being lonely. And so my friend Egypt was kind of like, let me find out that we're the same, you know what I'm saying? And we also have to know, like, we child, get the words together. We had to reassure each other that I'm a phone call away. I'm a flight away. Like, if you're not by yourself. You might be, in a place where you're not close to us anymore, but it ain't nothing to call me. It ain't nothing to get on the phone or get on a flight or plan a weekend. And that also is a form of elevation, is knowing that I have people when I'm not my best. Because in those moments where I'm taking a breath from my journey with consistency, knowing that in those valleys, I can call my friend and not even have to talk about my problems. And I realized that I used to think, when I call somebody, like, I need to get to the point, I need to vent, I'm calling you for this. But I didn't realize that just those conversations helped me take just like I didn't feel so isolated. And it was like, dang, okay, now I can do this. Now I got some motivation to sit down and record this podcast. Now I know that I'm not the only one having these feelings. So I'm a little bit more out of the dark. And so what I want y'all to know is that the keys to elevation are not just going hard, being consistent and being in charge of what your consistency looks like. But a part of elevating is also having community. And that doesn't mean you have to have a whole buku amount of people, but community is important. And I think we also confuse community with intimacy, right? We can have intimacy in friendships and relationships, but having community is also people that you just call on for business advice. Or I know that, like, y'all don't have to be best friends is the point that I'm getting at. We feel like when I say community, it has to be the close-knit tribe or the people closest to you that you talk to every day. No, people are still a part of your community, still a part of your community and your village, even if you don't talk to them every day. These are people I know if I'm having an issue with this type of thing, I can call on you. Or I know that you have an expertise in this area. I'm trying to figure out if this is something I should get into. I can call on you. Don't get in the spirit of cutting off the whole world because you found your core people. You know, even when we think about science, I'm thinking about like the nucleus of a cell. There's still atoms that move around it all the time. All of those things work together. You are an ecosystem. And yes, you have a nucleus that may be your closest friends, but you also have to understand that the outside community is just as important. Okay? So, with that being said, y'all, this episode is called Elevate Yourself. Elevate your thinking. Elevate what you give yourself access to. And I think that I'm going to do a part 2 of this episode only because there's more on my spirit. Because remember, this is a spirit episode where I'm not necessarily reading from notes. But I feel like I want to flesh this out more. So next week is probably going to be Elevate Yourself part 2, where I actually really sit down and delve into different ways in which different angles we can take when we're talking about elevation. So I'm going to leave it here for today. Take what you need, leave what you don't. Share what you know someone else needs with them. And I will see y'all next week. I love y'all. Bye.